Greetings, survivors and friends, SHADOWFRAX here with a roundup from the ground up of everything new in this month's patch plus works in progress, including, this week, Optimisations and a first look at Tutorial Island. I know you've all been excited about that one. But first, this week saw the Bags to Riches update, which in short added backpacks to the game. Finally, a survival game that's done without them for 10 years is doing okay, I guess, but the time has now come, especially as every month there's more and more junk to hoard and transport. There's a default craftable 12-slot jobby for 50 cloth and 5 sewing kits that does now require a tier 1 workbench, and a 28-slot professional version that can only be found in military loot. They'll both drop off of you upon death and can be looted from the ground or picked up in 3 seconds, and the decay time depends on what's inside them, up to a maximum of 2 hours. Currently, there are no negative effects from wearing one, but as previously stated, this is subject to change, and may one day make you consume more calories or something else. Chafing, maybe. To avoid confusion, there are some new player remains. Instead of a tidy-looking backpack, we now have this, and its visual state will change depending on whether there are more than 3 items in it or not, and also if it's already been looted, and it will appear open in that case, to save you time. The metal detector's now been added, as shown last week. It's a tier 1 BP now, 75 scrap to research, and costs 2 rope, 200 frags, and 5 high qual to craft. The bleeping noise has been toned down somewhat, and you can find different basic loot in different places, including scrap, metal frags, cans, tools, and bullets. Here's a full loot table if you'd find that useful. And further to a question I was asked, no, it doesn't find stashes. You also won't find anything in the snow, to save you trying. Check last week's vid for a full tutorial on how it works, but once an item's been located, it can now be dug up with any melee weapon. The shovel shown last week isn't needed now because it hasn't been implemented yet, but hopefully will be in the future. Over on staging, the yearly Chinese stuff's being added with a new dragon-themed rocket launcher and a spear with some fluff hanging off it, both of which seem to be just reskins and will most likely be in the shop at some time soon. And there were quite a few changes and quality of life improvements this month, which I'm going to data blast you with now, so pin your ears back and think of England. The animations for the SAP and SAR are snappier when reloading and aiming, plus the additional recoil when moving and using the SAP has been reduced. According to Helk, over coming months, all weapons will get a balance pass, but not as drastic as at other times. There's now a default legacy shelter limit of 1, but this can be adjusted by server owners, see the description for the convar, and a map marker will appear for your shelter if the value is kept at default. There's now an option to make the map button a toggle. There's a new safe zone warning pop-up when logging out in a safe zone. Death markers will show up on the compass. Certain items have had a repair cost fix to stop them costing more than they should, including ladder hatches, not needing ladders for repair now. You can rotate doors, hatches, and embrasures when deploying with R. The ripe stage duration on plants has been increased from 4 to 14 hours. SAM sites at launch now won't target MLRS rockets, and I must clarify from last week that this is just applied to launch. Player SAMs are unchanged. Sorry to panic you. Team markers with night vision gogs on are now not misaligned or floaty. There's improved door and gate behaviour so that crashing into them with a vehicle won't interrupt the animation and cause all sorts of problems. Visuals on loot barrels and some background props have been updated. There's a convar to disable the fade in the death screen now. Again, see the description for that. The EVGA is more likely to shoot after every failed strike. Now, weapon racks can now hold instruments. There are milder screen post-processing effects for cold, injured, etc. statuses, and you can see the before and afters here, and default nudity has been changed to pixelated. What a time to be alive and naked. Okay, so Tutorial Island is now open for testing on the AUX 02 branch of the staging client, and this has now been opened up for all to try, so here's a quick bit of me checking it out. This is all still subject to change and a bit placeholdery. It is completely optional, and as you can see, you can restart the tutorial from the menu at any time if you want. It starts off with you and another survivor with a conveniently busted leg having crashed your helicopter on a small island. With guidance from the slacker, injured survivor, you'll get guided through all the basics of harvesting, crafting tools, building a starter base, cooking food, attacking bears, etc, etc. Basically tier 1 stuff, but not beyond. Not sure if the plan is to add more beyond that, though, so stay tuned. If all goes well, this should go live for all in next month's patch. On to some other changes on the back end, and as mentioned in the start of your blog, optimization was going to be a focus this year, and true to their word, the team are already making some efforts. Firstly, server-side entity counts were reduced a lot, with a bunch of planners being culled. A planner is basically the blue outline of an item that shows when it's being positioned for deployment. However, they were taking up space even when not shown, and thus were a waste of resources. This has now been fixed, and you can read more about it here. Secondly, industrial systems performance was given some attention. I'd recommend reading this if you're interested in the nitty-gritty, but there were some extremely complex conveyor systems moving large amounts of syringes, apparently. Suspicious. And there were some fixes to mitigate the impact of this and other things. There were some memory optimizations made too, with 3 gig nuked so far and more to come. Again, pause and read if you are interested. Client performance was also improved when excessive amounts of laser lights are deployed, when the player is getting shot, and in the main menu. There were some improvements to texture qualities, which you can read about here, and anti-cheat has apparently been improved too, but with no specifics to share because secret source. Over to works in progress quickly, and in the commits there's the compound redesign chugging along nicely, changes to harbours to accommodate cargo ship docking, which is coming in the future, and a rangefinder's being added to the binoculars. And that's about your lot for this week, but hopefully there'll be some interesting stuff to share soon, as I believe another hack week is imminent, so sub and stay tuned for that. You can find me on Twitch and lots of other places, including my Steam group, and also support my work here via Patreon, YouTube memberships and super thanks. I shall catch you all soon, but in the meantime, keep calm and stay rusty. Cheerio. What a time to be alive and naked.